What's happening, my friends? Glad you're here. Glad you are here for this episode because it's awesome. You're going to love it. Got my friend Tiffany Forrester on the show today. Tiffany's a graphic designer. Going to tell you all about her in just a bit. But before I do, I want to tell you, you need to hit subscribe wherever you're at. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're doing the thing. Hit subscribe and make sure you're following at MyFi Podcast on social media everywhere. Make sure you can follow me as well at Lee T. Baker. Would love to stay connected so you see all the stuff that MyFi's got going on. Also, I do a newsletter each and every Monday called MyFi Monday. That's for creative people, creative leaders, creative organizations. Just talk about all things creative, share some people that I like to follow. I talk about some cool stuff I found, some of my favorite things, all that sort of stuff. It's every Monday, MyFi Monday. You can go to MyFiPodcast.com and scroll down, or you can hit the link in any of the social profiles and find how to sign up for the MyFi Monday newsletter there as well. You can also check out a blog that I do once a month at MyFiCoaching.com. Just cool stuff for creative people this month. I talked about some ways to find inspiration, and we could all use that from time to time. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you as well. But for now, let's get into it. Let's get into this episode. Yeah. We're here. Another one. Episode 45 with my friend Tiffany Forrester. Tiffany is a graphic designer, visual artist, illustrator. She does all sorts of cool stuff. She works for Harper Publishing in Nashville, Tennessee. Does all kinds of book covers for all sorts of crazy people. She worked at Pace Magazine, which is a really reputable thing, or for the firm. I don't know how this works, but she worked for the art firm, media firm, graphic firm. We talk about it in the podcast, but she's done a lot of cool stuff based out of Nashville now. She's won all kinds of awards. She's all kinds of accomplished. You need to follow her at TiffanyGF88 on social media. I'll link that up in the show profile. TiffanyForrester.com is her website. That'll also be in the notes here for the show. And there's a special surprise that I'm linking up in the show notes that we talk about during this episode as well. So without any further ado, let's get into the episode with my friend Tiffany Forrester. Tiffany, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Lee?
I'm doing good. We were just talking a minute ago. You're in East Nashville. One of my favorite restaurant bar places in East is Duke's. Do you ever?
I've actually never been in Duke's, but
you need to go in Duke's.
I need to go. I just think of the mayonnaise when I think of Duke's. So
that's true. That's true. I do too.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. I grew up on Hellman's. There's a mayonnaise battle in the world.
We were a blue plate family.
You're like the Linux of mayonnaise. I don't mean to diss blue plate. I just didn't grow up around it. I'm from Louisiana, so I didn't know there was anything but Hellman's. And I moved out here, and somebody was like, Duke's. I was like, is that a new mayonnaise company? And they're like, no, dude, it's been around forever. I'm like, not where I'm from.
Yeah.
You need to go check out Duke's though. It's awesome. They got great food, great drinks, a great spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that.
But you're from Georgia, around where I'm from. We have a great mutual friend named Jonathan who's done a lot for the podcast. He's actually been on an episode as well. And so I'm grateful for the connect.
Yeah, love Jonathan. I'm from Northeast Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and born and raised. And nice. 4 years ago, moved to Nashville for a job. So great time to move right before a pandemic, but I've stayed up here. It's great.
Well, I mean, I guess being a graphic designer, you can work from home because you are you still in that job?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, we're hybrid, so we go into the office a couple times a week, but that totally transitioned us to a part-time, working from home situation. So
And you're at Harper Collins, right?
Yeah, Harper Collins Publishing. So
nice. That's a big deal. That's a big company.
It's a huge company, and it's a subsidiary of an even bigger company.
Oh, wow.
So it's a News Corp company. So I went from working at a really small studio in Atlanta to just this giant conglomerate kind of situation with benefits,
Yeah. That's how you know you've made it as a creative.
Yeah,
I got health insurance.
401k.
Yeah. That's awesome. Were you always into graphic design, or was that something you just kind of fell into, or did it start with like playing with construction paper as a kid? Like,
Oh
what
my
was that
gosh. When I was a kid, I loved Microsoft Paint. And
I won't tell anyone.
Yeah, right?
And that's still what you design in right now.
I still use it. No, don't tell anybody else over here. All the book covers are getting printed at 10 DPI. No, I just loved it, and I always thought, like, how cool would it be to merge my love of art with computers?
Yeah.
Of course, when you're a kid, like I'm a millennial, so I knew, we had a computer, but it wasn't like it is now. And I had a teacher in high school. I was designing up all of these reports for my business law class, and I had a teacher for that class say, like, there's this thing called graphic design. So she introduced me to the concept of it in high school, and I just was like, that's exactly what I want to do. I had no idea. I thought I was going to be an architect or something, but that was more up my alley for sure. But I started designing in PowerPoint, like Microsoft PowerPoint.
Oh, wow.
Like actual, like, so many layers of design gradients, recreating Apple ads. Like,
oh, nice.
I don't know if you remember those, the iPod ads with the silhouettes with like the dancing people. I fully recreated those in PowerPoint somehow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you still have them?
I think I do on my Facebook somewhere, as in a deep archive. Far away.
I was on your website earlier, and if you're listening, you want to check out Tiffany's work, tiffanyforrester.com. I'll link it up in the show notes and all that. But I was checking out your site earlier, and I always thought it would be cool if designers and musicians and people like on their website would put like their first work. Like,
oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, show where you came from a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody shows their best. Like, show a little bit of where you came from. I just think that would be fun.
Man, I wish I could find some of those old, like the actual Microsoft Paint files. That would be really fun.
If you could open them.
Yeah, I don't know that I could even do that, but that was a fun time. I had a youth pastor that I grew up in the church, but I had a youth pastor that was trying to teach me, graphic design and Corel and stuff like that. So I did end up I got more legit as time went on.
Yeah. But I had one, I can't remember. Oh my gosh. I bought it at like Office Depot, but it was like a step up from like whatever I had. And then, I guess at some point you moved into like Adobe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And made the move to Mac. Are you on Mac or are you on Windows? Because I know there's like a battle among graphic designers.
When I got when I got my laptop to go to college, I was insistent on getting a Mac, and I've never turned back. Okay. I wouldn't even consider a Windows computer at this point. I mean, I'm sure they're great, but
I know a lot of animators who are on Windows machines now.
The cheaper power. I mean, it's to the point where I had to use just a Windows computer with the normal keyboard, like the clackety-clack keyboard, and like I couldn't function with it. I was like, okay, I had to stare at it and look at what I was doing because I'm so Mac forward. But over here, if I had
to get off my Mac keyboard, like, because you don't have to lift your finger very much. If I had to go to one of those big I feel like I'd pull like a finger muscle trying to, having to get on top of that thing. It's just, they're so different.
The keys are in different spots too. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I know there's some people in animation I know who intentionally, they have a Mac, but they get these like cool light up keyboards that, make the tactile sounds and stuff. And that's cool for them, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, me neither. Do you remember the first time anybody ever paid you for your work? Like that you felt like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a gig like for money. I'm making money doing this thing.
Yeah. My mom was a real estate agent right before the bubble burst. But her broker hired me to do a logo for a housing neighborhood. That never got built, but I did get paid for it, and that was done in Corel as well.
Nice.
Hawthorne something in Gainesville, Georgia. I don't think it exists. But yeah, it was. I felt like I think I made $200, and I thought, man, I can't believe this lady's paying me all of this money.
Yeah.
You know,
Were you
but
nervous? Were you nervous?
I was so overconfident at that point.
The opposite. The
I
opposite.
was like, you should listen to me. I know exactly what you need.
How old were you? How old were you?
I think I was probably like 19 or something.
Okay.
Because I was maybe just out of high school. Yeah, like first couple years of college. And just, I thought I knew what I was doing. And I did to a certain point, and that got me far enough. But
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you ran into, like, you got your rear end handed to you? Like, you thought like, was there a point where, like, you didn't know?
Well, even within that project, I think the same person tried to hire me to do like an elevation drawing. And I was like, oh, that was the first time I realized, like, within graphic design and even just like art and illustration in general, there are just different things that you might be better at. And just to know when to say no. Because I was just trying to say yes to anything. And I realized, oh, I actually can't do this in a way that I'm happy with. So yeah, that was hard. And also, like early on, I think I was hired for like some web design stuff that I was way underqualified for and had to end up passing on.
How'd you end up processing that? I'm just always interested because I think every creative person hits that thing where like you get into something and then you're like, oh snap, I either have to like figure this out or I have to admit like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what was your experience?
I think I probably didn't handle it. I probably handled it pretty immaturely at the time. Because I just was thinking, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. And, just had to go back to them and say, actually, I think this other person, like, I think I would always try to refer to someone else that I knew maybe could do it.
Yeah.
Probably a Jonathan or something at the time, like, that I knew. I think, that's interesting to think about and reprocess. Because now, I would just, from the bat, know what my capabilities are. Aside from scheduling, I think sometimes I like to take on more than what my schedule should really take on.
Sure, but it's not an ability thing.
Yeah, yeah. And in those cases, I just end up pushing myself too far and stretching myself thin. So I pay for it myself later instead of making the person trying to hire me pay for it.
I always wonder what that is, like when we're younger and we just take something on, like, I guess thinking we'll figure it out. I did the same thing, like recording music early on. And I don't know what that is. Now, I don't know if it's just you get more secure with yourself as you get old, or you actually, as you get older, you actually learn how to do more, or you're just willing to say like, it's not what I do. I don't know what that is.
Well, because it's like a give and take and you kind of it's nice to do these things that you're not sure you can do, because then if you learn that you can do it, then that's great. But like that hunger for more business and making a little extra money because you're broke, sometimes overrides other common sense things. So
totally, those lessons are just not, I don't know, you got to learn them and still learn them, I guess, today sometimes, but maybe in a different way. Somebody asked me last week if I minded like getting older. Like I'm about to be 45 and, working in music and creative consulting and all that. And I was like, you know what? I don't mind it at all, because if I was 20, I don't really think I had done anything at that age. And now I've like done some stuff, and I don't want to go back to not having done some stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And learn these lessons, that you were talking about.
Yeah, and it's interesting now. I don't know if it's the same for you, but like when I'm hiring other people for jobs, I really want them to be transparent with me on what their capabilities are, and if they've done something like this before, or is this really going to stretch them? And if they tell me, actually, I can't do 100 illustrations for you by May 5th, but I really want to do this project, I can work with them and help them and be able to support them in that way, and not make, because I'm also hiring creative people. I'm a creative, but I'm also hiring other creative people. So I understand what that's like to want to take on a job that you're maybe not qualified for or that you're going to stretch yourself for. but, I think, not to totally derail the conversation with something else, I had a project recently, though, that it was a higher profile author project with a lot of pieces of artwork, and I had an illustrator, working on it. And I think the pressure got to her a lot.
Yeah.
And so we had to really work out scheduling. And all it took was me calling her and just sitting down and like, hey, let's just make a plan. Like, you don't have to take all this whole project at once. Let's do one little piece at a time.
Yeah.
And, work it out. And because some people just get caught up in losing the confidence because they get caught up in the pressure of things. And, it's really more about, well, what is step one? And then what is step two?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, that's a lot of what I do in creative coaching is helping people take big projects apart into bite-sized chunks.
Yes.
And then just creating like something you can do every day. And before you know it, you're like, oh, I'm 2 months into this and I'm almost finished. And I thought this was going to take me 6 months or that sort of thing.
Right.
I was going to ask you something in regard to what you were talking about. Are there characteristics that you look for, like when you're hiring? Because you may consider yourself a creative leader, you may not, but if you're hiring people and you have contractors working with you for you to some degree, like you're leading creative people, hiring creative people, are there things that you look for in creative people that you got a choice between 3 or 4 people? What are those characteristics that make people stand out where you go, oh, I want to pick them for this project?
For me, I think the types of projects that I'm hiring people for being for, real book projects that will be actually printed in the real world.
Yeah, big publishing things.
I tend to look for people who have experience. If someone has the right look, but maybe they only have 10 pieces of artwork on their website that, I know that they could do it, but I'm like, do I really have the confidence of contracting this person for this larger project? I might hire them first for a smaller project.
Yeah.
And then, then find the bigger project later on once it's proven that they can work with us. But yeah, for me, it's the knowing they can handle a big project, because project management is the hardest part of my personal job and the jobs of the people that I hire, because we don't have, I'm assuming that my, designers or illustrators that I hire don't have their own project manager assistant,
Yeah.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have an agent that really helps. But, I think it's the experience and and just from the art perspective, I like to see things that make me know that they are thinking about a concept that have some depth to it, that it's not just abstract and illustrative with color, like it's not just an aesthetic thing, but it's this is meaning something, that is communicating something. Because we can make things look cool, but we need to have an idea behind it, or for it to be really clear, like for the action to be really clear.
Yeah, for something to have intention, meaning.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who maybe is up and you go, I want to hire you, but like you just don't have enough experience? Like, what would you tell them to do to go get that experience?
Personal projects, I think, is number one. It's like if you want to do, like, if you want to work with me, for example, and do book covers, make a bunch of book covers. Find, seeing what would you do for some classic books, doing your own little projects. Like, I love seeing that.
Good. That's really good.
And then seeking out, smaller freelance clients. There's lots of people trying to self-publish, doing things for free for friends. If I ever posted that, hey, I want to give someone some free work, I'm sure I would get like 100, emails about it, which is like, actually, I need a logo.
Yeah.
Asking your friends and family to, like, seriously, personal work. Though you might think it's just like bulking up your portfolio. I mean, it's really just practice and
reps.
reps. It's like an exercise that you can do. I mean, I wish I had more time to do personal work myself, just so that I could have that way to express, different avenues that I don't get to express in my career. But I mean, I do other things to get my creativity out. But if you, or in volunteering too. I think one thing coming up that I was really lucky to be able to do was donate my time, to my church or nonprofits. And it gives you an experience because they are a real client and you are getting real feedback. And from there, you know how it is to work with a person. And so it's a personal project in a way, but it's still, you're getting to collaborate with others too. So
yeah, that's awesome. Were there people like early on too, when you were building up your own experience yourself, were there other artists like graphic designers and people like that inspired you like early on?
Really early on, I really loved this magazine called Paste Magazine.
Oh yeah, I love Paste. Yeah,
and I ended up. They were out of Atlanta. I didn't know that until I was in college, and I had a professor who connected me up with them via like a graphic design field trip. We went and visited them, and I ended up interning for them.
Oh wow!
The agency that did the design, and then as soon as I started the internship, Paste folded. That was when the original magazine stopped. So, but I think that professor kind of knowing that was really pivotal to get connected to them. I ended up that was MetaLeap Creative. I worked with them for about 8 years before I came up to HarperCollins. So I'm
looking something up right now.
Yeah.
Because I think Paste, because they stayed around. They didn't fold.
Yes, they stayed around. The print magazine went away for a while. Then a few years ago, I was at MetaLeap when we designed the quarterly, the larger format magazine.
Yeah.
So I was like, it kind of did come back around full circle for me to be able to work on that. I've always been inspired by magazine design.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's something that at MetaLeap I was able to work on. Aside from Paste, there were just other magazines we ended up working on. So things like the New York Times magazine that comes I think once a month in the Sunday paper. I've always been inspired by their design in there. It's really pushing design in a way that I think other magazines don't get to do because it is more frequently put out.
Yeah.
But I still have stacks and stacks of that over in my bookshelf, just from years. And I also there was this, I don't remember his name. Across the years, there's been so many graphic designers that I'll get obsessed with someone's work and really follow them closely and then let it fall off. Now, I'm really into Annie Adkins. She's a graphic designer that does movie prop design. And I have her book. It's really cool. I won't show it on camera here, but trust, it's a good buy. She basically considers herself a forger. Like she's recreating these old documents and letterheads she works on a lot of the Wes Anderson movies. Anytime there's a little paper prop that
brilliant
is designed to the gods, it's her or her team. So I love that. And I love how authentically old some of that stuff feels. Yeah. I don't know that her work necessarily translates into what I'm doing, but I'm a huge movie fan, so I always look out for the design when it pops up. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other folks coming up. Bon Appetit magazine is another one that I think, some of the best photography out there, amazing design, and it's also food, so there's it's delicious to look at too. I'm in already. I'm in. I'm going to subscribe right now. Yes. I think I was a weird kid too, in middle school. reading like Architecture Digest. Like I don't know, like we would go to Barnes and Noble or Borders, and I would be like, can I get this Architecture Digest magazine?
That's awesome though.
And I was like, I knew about subway tile like way before it became a trend.
Yeah, you're way ahead.
I was way ahead of that trend.
I remember a magazine somebody gave me, I think it was called Kinfolk. Maybe.
Yeah.
That was like, I remember going, this is just unbelievable. It was like this really nice matte paper. And it was just, I don't know. I don't even remember what the magazine was about. I just remember that it looked amazing.
That was one of those things that came out in the kind of like that folk revival movement. Like you had like Mumford and Sons was playing.
Oh yeah.
You had the Kinfolk magazine. Yeah. It was like everyone was eating on like long tables outside with candlelight. Like but it was, this like vintage revival time. Kinfolk magazine was really cool. And they inspired a lot of other aesthetic movements just from that. I mean, I still, if I see a Kinfolk now, they've kind of over the years stayed relevant in a way. Like their photography is less folky now, more elevated. But that's a beautiful, beautiful magazine. I have their cookbooks and stuff too.
Oh, nice. I was looking up a second ago. I don't think it was Paste. One of those magazines. It was like a Paste, Stereo Gum, like that level of like music. Media just got bought by GQ, and I can't remember who it was. And everybody was like mourning the loss of like I'll find it later or something. But and I'm interested to know, because you've worked, like, it seems like in more of like the indie realm, being at Paste, and now HarperCollins, like this massive publishing thing. Are the rules really different, like between like kind of the indie thing and more of like the corporate level?
Design? So, well, and I would say like I was at Metal Leap who did the design for Paste. So, but that's where they really came from, was that like indie world. But yeah, the small studio and versus the corporate, it's the culture. Obviously culturally it's going to be totally different because of the size, but I think that the standard for creativity was a lot different, because the expectation at a small studio is they were coming to you for something really different and really bespoke. And in the corporate world, it's a little bit more based on market trends and what's going to sell. So there's still a lot of creativity involved there that you can achieve, but it's way less, I would almost say way less detail oriented in a way. I could spend weeks and hours and hours and hours on one thing when I was at a small studio that I have maybe hours to work on the same type of thing, in the corporate job, where it's like, I would have loved to spend like 8 more hours just thinking about this thing, but I don't have the luxury of time because of so many other spokes in the wheel that also need to see the thing and review it, and also just other things I need to work on.
That's that brings up
different.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting question too. How do you do that as a creative person? Like, you wanting to put like your whole self into a piece of something, but you have hours and you wish you had days to just come up with an idea. Do you just go, well, it's just work? Or do you like have a way that you process it? Or does it just like belabor you and you're like, oh, this kills me because I want to put my heart and soul into like everything,
The last one, usually.
Nice.
Yeah, sometimes it's there. The longer I'm here, the more I think I'm accepting of the fact that I'm a member of a big team. I may be directing the art on something, but there are a whole lot of other components of a product that I don't control. Even there are some books that I touch only the cover, and I don't even get to see the inside of it.
Oh, that's wild.
Whereas it's still one product that should be, that everything should be married together. But I don't have that control. I can't have that control in a lot of instances. So it's that just what's that phrase? Like, accept the things that you cannot change.
Oh yeah, the serenity prayer over your graphic design.
Serenity now.
Yeah.
Or I do have a rage playlist sometimes.
Yeah. What's on there? What's on the rage playlist? Who's on there?
Oh my gosh. Well, randomly there's this like MGMT song that I probably shouldn't repeat the lyrics of. I can't find it. I'd have to pull up my Spotify. I'm trying to get it up. I'm gonna pull it up.
You should. It's gonna be awesome. There's like some Slayer and like some Kill Switch.
So it's like rage in a like girl rage.
Okay. I don't even know what that means, but I'm guessing it's different than boy rage.
Yeah. Okay. It's like my own brand of rage.
Okay. Mine would be like Rage Against the Machine, and
Yeah, no, the title of my playlist is thinly veiled rage. No. So no, there's do you know the band 100 Gex?
No.
They're just so it's like if you took the band like Sleigh Bells from a few years ago.
Yeah, I love Sleigh Bells.
And you just like put it in an algorithm with all of the like 2000s pop punk and not all of that. I don't know.
All right.
It's just really fun. But there's a song called "Dumbest Girl Alive." It's just it's just a fun one.
That's awesome.
The Smiths, Heaven Knows, I'm Miserable Now.
Yes. Some good old goth rock in there.
There's a song called "Quit Effing Around" by Francis of Delirium.
Yeah. Nice.
When You Die, MGMT.
Yeah. It's dark in there when Tiffany's upset.
It's a little dark.
Yeah.
But it's subtle in a way.
Yeah. I respect that so much. That's awesome.
To be clear, I'm not mad at anyone that I work with.
No.
Sometimes when you get frustrated, it's just like, let me just take it out.
Hey, if you send me that link, I will put that link in the show notes. If you send me that,
I will send you this link. It might be private. I'll unprivate it.
Okay. Yeah, it would be awesome. I think maybe people listening would go, "Oh, I want to get in on that." I would love to hear your creative process or what you maybe can share, because I know everything's different.
Yeah.
But like, you get a piece of work, somebody calls you, says, "Hey, I want you to do this book cover."
Yeah.
Like, what kind of information are you going to ask for? And then do you start with typeface? Do you start with color? Do you start with like an image? Do you make a folder of images based on what they want? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on, I know everybody knows this, but it's like, it depends on the type of project, the type of book, or even if I'm doing something for like on the freelance end. But I do have like a list of questions that I'll ask an author or the editor, whoever is sort of the point person. And it's just, I want to know about their audience. Like, if they already have an audience of followers, like what is that made up of? Like, who is going to be reading this book? What's the book about? I mean, it's funny, like, sometimes we have to start something so early before anything's written. Oh, wow. And, later we'll get to know more and make sure everything's, aligned. But, like, what's the core message? And I also like to ask if there's any, like, books out there or artists out there that the author really loves and, like, resonates with. Because, I think it's nice to cater to an author's, like, personal aesthetic if they have one. I really like working with authors who have brands. Like, I've worked on a few books for Sadie Robertson Huff, and she has she has a whole brand behind her of, she's done conferences and she has her own podcast. And so when it's someone like that, I like to dig in and, like, really go and research all of their latest stuff, all the colors they're using. And that almost makes it a little bit more streamlined of a process too, because you're kind of, in a way, like, limiting yourself rather than if it's someone totally new, then the sky's the limit. Also, market research. That's just something that I have to do anyways. And I see, like, what books are selling right now? Is there a visual trend that we need to follow, or is there something that we need to do to make sure we stand out?
Yeah.
And and just in general, like I'm a Pinterest user, and I'll start like a secret little Pinterest board and then make mood boards, and I'm a big mood board believer. So I think once you start like visually piecing things together, that's when things start kind of coming alive.
Yeah.
For me, and like even if I'm just doing it for myself, like if I'm the cover designer on it, I'm not working with anyone else. I still like to do that for my own like path alignment, just to make sure that I'm fully thought out the aesthetic of everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, and that's the point too, where you decide, does this need a photo? Does this need an illustration? Because you kind of have a blank page to start with.
Yeah.
Also, I work on some kids' books too, and it's like, well, what kind of artist would make sense? Like, does it need to be someone that's really expressive because the character is doing something really zany? Like, we need to capture the action. Or is this more of a graphic novel feel? Like, do we need to find someone who can do caricature and do black and white line drawings? And, and then it's okay, who's available and the amount of time and the budget that we have. So there's this, like, I think my process has a range of just like really practical steps that I have to follow to be able to sell my creative work. Like being able to have that market research allows me to go to the publisher with some like solid reasoning behind like why I want something to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Even if I could just express like, I've seen that this is a trend. If I can actually prove that it is a trend, that is a little bit more of a case. It's almost like doing just keeping the research up to date in that way.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there are projects where it's like, I know what this needs. I'm going to shoot from the hip, and I'm just going to do something and see if it lands. And sometimes that totally works out, and that's great. Sometimes it doesn't, and then you have to go back to the normal process of things. But yeah, it really just depends on the project there.
Is there anything in you, because I think no matter what you do, like I'm in music stuff, you're in graphic stuff, you're in video, or, whatever you do, how do you reconcile like the indie, girl in you, like that worked at Pace Magazine, with the corporate side of things where, maybe you have to make a sacrifice for the sake of the marketplace? It's like the age old punk rock sort of dilemma, as a creative person. Like, how do you reconcile that?
It is a struggle. Yeah, I don't know that I have totally reconciled it, because I think that the way that maybe it comes from the way that I was raised. I want to work hard so that I can like succeed and make the money that I need to make. And, if there's a job to be done, I want to do it correctly and the way, like, and what it needs to be. So, while I do my little rebellions, in the process, but I guess to get kind of deep I don't want to get in trouble for work. I do work for a large corporation that has had its different controversies too. And so, I just kind of boil it down of like, this is my team.
Sure.
And, I work with this small art team within this smaller division. And it's like, we know what we're about and what we're trying to achieve and do. And, maybe that's a little delusional in a way, but yeah, I when I think about how big it can be or how many copies of something have sold, sometimes that gets overwhelming. So I think that, maybe that's not the healthy answer, but
no, I think that's really mature. No. I think that's really mature. Sometimes you have to compartmentalize a little bit and just go, you know what? Sometimes there's a lot you can't hold one arena of your work hostage to gratifying everything artistically in you, and sometimes it's just sometimes it's just work. Sometimes it's just work for hire. And sometimes you get to like really infuse something emotional and stuff in it. And sometimes it's just a piece for the sake of communicating something really plain. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, especially when I was at the smaller studio, and even here for a little while, like I really wanted my work to be a creative outlet. And I mean, I'm lucky enough that oftentimes it is sometimes.
Yeah.
But when I think COVID happening and us all working from home, I lived and breathed and ate my job at home, and it burnt me out. And I just decided like I've got to like lift myself out of that in a way and have some kind of creative thing happening, or some kind of focus that I can move to after 5 o'clock every day. Even if it's like I said, I'm a huge movie person. Like even if it's let's get out of the house, go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Or like recently last year I started doing pottery again.
Nice.
Like that's not, I'd love to have graphic design, like something graphic design oriented. That was my, creative project. But in this season, like I can't do that. I've got to get off the computer.
Yeah.
So it can't be the creative outlet. It has to be the job right now. So
yeah. Well, I'm sure there are seasons for that too. One graphic designer, I say graphic designer, just designer artist in particular that I love. His name's Stanley Donwood. Do you know this name?
I don't. I'll have to look at Stanley Donwood. Okay.
Yeah, he was college roommates with Tom York from Radiohead, and he's done all the Radiohead work. And so every cover and all that sort of stuff. But his style is just super unique. And I'm not a visual artist of any kind, but I appreciate it so much and read about it, and I have my favorites and all that sort of stuff from the past. But he's a modern artist. I have a couple of prints that I bought a while back from him when they were slightly cheaper than they are now. But yeah, you should check him out for sure. I love his work. It's obviously unique. If you've seen any of the Radiohead record covers, you'll have a sense of what it is. But he's super cool. So you should check him out for sure.
Yeah, I will. I know you didn't ask the question, but I know there was a question on the list about music that really impacted you early on. And for me, the Radiohead and Rainbows album. I mean, I loved the album. It really changed the way that I think that was the beginning of my indie music journey. And in some ways, I'd already been I had started it a little bit, but that just was like, it sounded so experimental, and it really opened my mind to that. But their visual album experience with that album, I remember you could pay what you wanted.
Yep.
And I paid what I wanted, which was probably zero. And that was such a cool, merging music and visual experience. I mean, I think about that. That's like my Roman Empire, maybe.
Yeah.
Like once a month, I'm thinking about that album. I'm like, I don't even know if the website's still up, but that was such a cool thing.
It is.
So yeah, I guess I'm familiar with his work, but without realizing who it was.
Yeah. Hey, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate the time so much. It's super insightful, I think, not only for graphic designers or people who want to get into being a visual artist of some kind, but just the process of being a creative and working at a firm or working for a publisher, same time doing freelance stuff and just getting a peek inside your process and all that sort of stuff. So I appreciate it so much, Tiffany.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I hope I said something somewhat helpful for someone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm just grateful for the time.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
You got it. Thanks for being on the show. What a great chat. I always love it when they fly by. A lot of laughing, a lot of hanging out. We chatted a little bit afterwards too about all the cool places to eat in East Nashville. But you'll have to DM me or something for me to send you my recommendations on where to eat in East Nashville. So, but there's a lot of good places. Trust me. You guys make sure you follow Tiffany at TiffanyGF88 on social media. It's there in the show notes, and check out TiffanyForrester.com. Check out some of her work as well. What a great chat. Oh, and I do have the link to Tiffany's Thinly Veiled Rage playlist, so you can check out how she deals with her graphic design rage and what songs she's about and all that sort of stuff. So go check that out. It's a Spotify link. So if you're an Apple Music user like myself, you'll just have to go look it up and make your own Tiffany's Thinly Veiled Rage playlist in Apple Music, I guess, or something. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. Make sure you follow at MyFi Podcast everywhere. You can follow me as well at Lee T. Baker. Go sign up for the MyFi Monday newsletter. You can find those links in our social profiles as well. It's a weekly newsletter that I do for creatives and creative leaders. And till next time, you guys have a good one.